Hello and a very warm welcome to a brand new edition of World Panorama with me, Frank Pereira, on Rajya Sabha television. Over the next half an hour, we'll bring you a roundup of all the significant events to have happened around the world this week. But first, a look at the headlines. Turkey tries to break out of isolation. President Recep Tayyip Erdogan mends fences with Russia and Israel. Ankara sends apology letter to Moscow for downing of a Russian warplane in November. "41 killed in Istanbul Ataturk airport attack on Tuesday. 3 suspected Islamic State militants blow themselves up at the entrance of the airport. Over 200 injured in the deadliest attack on Turkish soil. Heavily armed terrorist strike at the heart of Bangladesh's diplomatic zone. Several hostages taken at a cafe popular with foreigners. Bangladeshi forces storm cafe to end crisis. Argentine footballer Lionel Messi announces retirement from international football. Decision comes after Argentina's Copa America final loss to Chile. Messi to continue to play for Barcelona. Our top focus on the program this week. Turkey announced the restoration of diplomatic ties with Israel on Monday after a 6-year rupture and expressed regret to Russia over the downing of a warplane seeking to mend strained alliances. In his comments following a dinner to break the fast in the holy month of Ramadan, President Erdogan said Turkey aimed for a quick normalization of ties with Moscow. Here's more. Turkey's usually confrontational leader ended months of diplomatic mudslinging and buried the hatchet with both Russia and Israel this week as President Recep Tayyip Erdogan tried to break out of isolation. Erdogan began, though, by doing what he had previously ruled out in sending a letter of apology to the Kremlin.
After the reconciliation with the letter I sent to Russia to redevelop our relations, I believe it would be good for both countries. With the letter I sent to Mr. Putin, I both expressed my sadness about the incident and reminded corporations and opportunities that we can accomplish in the region. I believe we will normalize our relations with Russia rapidly by ending the existing situation, which is not in the interest of either side.
In his apology letter, the president struck a conciliatory tone, calling Russia a friend and strategic partner. Turkey, he added, was ready for any initiatives to relieve the pain and severity of the damage done. Erdogan also expressed regret about the November episode in which Turkish forces shot down a Russian warplane that Turkey said had violated its airspace. Meanwhile, Binali Yildirim, the Turkish Prime Minister, said normalization of relations between Turkey and Russia has started and the aim was to also repair ties with other states in the region.
We will increase our friends and reduce our enemies. Our effort in the direction will continue without slowing down. Not only with Russia or Egypt, but also improving ties with all Black Sea and Mediterranean countries will be our most important goal.
Turkey also announced an agreement to restore full diplomatic relations with Israel 6 years after 9 of its citizens were killed by Israeli commandos while on board an aid ship trying to reach Gaza. The deal with Israel after years of negotiation was a rare rapprochement in the divided Middle East.
I'm sure this is an agreement that's good for both sides, so I don't want to start quibbling on that. But I will say this. The security naval blockade remains in place, but we do enable cargo and material and humanitarian material to come from Turkey or from any other country to Israel. They can come via the sea to Ashdod and there pass through our regulations and our security procedures to Gaza. This was the case and will be the case.
Restoring relations with Ankara is a linchpin in Israel's strategy to unlock its natural gas wealth. It is looking for export markets and is exploring a pipeline to Turkey as an option, both for consumers there and as a connection to Europe.
This is a strategic matter for the state of Israel. This matter could not have been advanced without this agreement, and now we will take action to advance it.
Relations between Israel and what was once its only Muslim ally crumbled after Israeli Marines stormed an aid ship in May 2010 to enforce a naval blockade of the Hamas-run Gaza Strip and kill 10 Turkish activists on board. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television. Well, joining me for a chat this week to talk about this is former diplomat Suresh Goel. Thank you so much, Ambassador, for joining me on the program. It looks like Turkey is doing everything possible to break out of isolation. It's, reached out to Russia after what happened in November when Turkey downed a Russian aircraft. And it seems like, the relationship between Turkey and Israel too is seeing a thaw.
Well, I must confess that as the news came early this week, that Turkey has apologized to Russia for downing the airplane, and that Turkey has taken the initiative to restart or reconcile with Israel after 6 years. It came as quite a bit of a surprise, really, and it was difficult. And even today, I don't think that we know all the factors which have gone behind such a decision by Turkey. But if we were to really go for a quick analysis, we will notice that this decision came practically on the heels of Brexit, when it was very clear that Europe, which has been the linchpin of Turkey's policy in the region, you remember that Turkey has been trying to become a member of the European Union for a long time. It is a member of NATO. It has been trying to negotiate for the visa-free travel for people from Turkey into Europe as a kind of a quid pro quo for the refugee deal. So, on the whole, I think Brexit gave a bit of a jolt to Turkey, who realized that Europe perhaps cannot be that kind of anchor which it had earlier thought would be possible for its own foreign policy ambitions. You would also recall that for practically the past 2 or 3 years, Turkey had been taking a very, very adventurous kind of a position in its foreign policy by challenging its neighbors, by developing or by encouraging situations which could actually create security problems in countries like Syria for the reasons to control Kurds, for the reasons to really basically create the no-fly zone, etc., etc. So I think essentially, suddenly it found the whole ground slipping, suddenly it found the ground situation changing, and it had to think of the new alternatives really. So I would say that one factor was really the change situation in Europe.
Indeed.
That is one. Second,
would you say that, the situation in Syria and everything that's been happening there with the Bashar al-Assad regime, with the Kurds also fighting Turkey and attacking Turkey,
yes,
could that also have had some kind of bearing in the letter of apology being sent to Russia? Because Russia is playing a very crucial and a strategic role in Syria.
I think so. And that was the second part of the argument, really. And the second part of the argument is that after, when I refer to the security situation in the neighborhood, I think there was a kind of a calculation in Turkey, and this is purely my assessment really. There was a kind of an assessment in Turkey that by encouraging rebel groups and the other factions, and I think there have been speculations of Turkey having supported the ISIS in its fight against Syria.
Yes.
So I think there was a calculation and assessment that by doing these things, they will be able to keep the Kurds under control, and they will be able to keep the Syria situation under control. As the Russian airstrikes, as the Russian action in Syria begin to give results, outcomes, which made it clear that Assad is not going to go too soon, which it also emerged that US and Russia had begun to work together in many of the security areas in terms of fight against the rebels and against the ISIS. I think Turkey began to feel that this policy of encouraging the terrorist groups in Syria is not sustainable anymore. Indeed. And that you saw in the attacks at the Istanbul airport.
Indeed.
So I think that was another reason that it had no option, I think, And as somebody said, the Putin would be celebrating now in Kremlin. Yes.
Indeed. Let's look at Israel now, and with the thawing of the relationship between Turkey and Israel, who stands to gain now, do you think?
Difficult to say really who would stand to gain here. I think essentially Turkey in terms of really coming to a balance of situation in its neighborhood. On the one hand, you have to make sure that the countries which have been inimical to its interest, they remain contained. And in that containment, Israel is an important factor.
Indeed, sure.
Israel, Iran, as you would recall.
Yes.
Israel, Syria. Israel, Hamas. Israeli actions in Lebanon. So I think Turkey is trying to attempt to develop a closeness with Israel to control and contain these elements in its neighborhoods. But on the other hand, I think Israel has not shown any great anxiety to relax on its sanctions in Gaza, really, or what you call the embargo in Gaza too soon. In fact, I recall that immediately after the initiative by Turkey to reconcile with Israel, they said that embargo would continue. So I think one has to see who gives more, really.
Indeed, indeed. It's a question of give and take, and who really gives and takes more is what remains to be seen. Thank you so much, Ambassador, for joining us on the program and putting things into perspective for us. Well, moving on now, of course, 41 people were killed and 239 injured in the worst attack in Turkey's capital city of Istanbul. 3 suspected Islamic State gunmen blew themselves up after police opened fire on them outside the airport security checkpoints. Here are the details.
Istanbul's Atatürk airport reopened partially on Wednesday morning amid tight security hours after a devastating suicide bomb attack that killed 41 people.
A boy was injured in the explosion, and my injured brother ran to help him. I asked him to come back, but he did not.
Many passengers were stranded at Europe's third busiest airport as delays remained widespread after hundreds of flights were cancelled or postponed. More than 340 flights of the national carrier Turkish Airlines were also cancelled.
2 bombs exploded, gunshots a lot, and people actually lay down, and there was a panic, of course. Maybe after a few minutes they show us a way to escape, so we have escaped.
3 suicide bombers blew themselves up at the entrance to the international and domestic terminal and in the parking area on Tuesday night, killing 41 people and injuring more than 200. 13 foreigners were among those killed, including 5 from Saudi Arabia and 2 from Iraq. No Indians were harmed in the attack.
We were there for the entire day. This happened after half an hour. We left from there, so we got saved.
While no group has claimed responsibility for the attack so far, the Turkish Prime Minister has blamed the Islamic State.
Our security forces indicate that this attack was carried out by Islamic State. This probe is underway.
World leaders, including United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, have condemned the terror attack and urged for stepped-up cooperation in fighting terrorism.
Islamist terrorists seek to destroy, divide and kill Muslims as well as Christians and other people of non-Muslim faiths. And it is very important that at times like this, Australians stay united and recognise that our successful multicultural society is built on a strong foundation.
We condemn the terrorist attack targeting civilians. China opposes all forms of terrorism and calls on the international community to enhance anti-terrorism cooperation.
Tuesday's attack was the worst in Istanbul in more than a decade. Close to 300 people have died in 17 bomb attacks and suicide bombings all over the country in the past year. Recently, 11 people were killed in an attack by Kurdish militants targeting tourist areas of Istanbul. The string of terrorist attacks has also affected the number of foreign tourists to the country by about 35%. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, it's time for a short break now, but on the other side, we'll give you the details of a terror strike carried out by armed gunmen in the diplomatic heart of Bangladesh's capital, Dhaka. Police stormed a cafe to put an end to a night-long hostage crisis. Details still to come. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
The splendid, grand and massive neo-Buddhist copper dome of the Rashtrapati Bhavan. It gets its influence from stupa at Sanchi. The dome is more than twice the height of the rest of the building. The reinforced concrete shell of the outer dome began to be formed during the beginning of 1929. The last stone of the dome was laid on April 6, 1929.
Welcome back. You're watching Rajya Sabha Television. Well, Bangladeshi security forces stormed a cafe in the capital Dhaka and ended a siege during which over 20 hostages had been held for more than 10 hours after gunmen launched an attack. Gunmen attacked the restaurant in the diplomatic area of Dhaka late on Friday and had been holding over 20 hostages, including foreigners, before police stormed the building to free those stuck inside. The commanding officer of the Bangladeshi commandos said that 6 of the attackers were killed and at least 13 hostages rescued in the Saturday morning operation at the Holy Artisan Cafe. Officials later said that the cafe had been cleared of gunmen and the siege had ended. The rescued people included a Japanese citizen who was wounded and 2 Sri Lankans. Police said that 8 or 9 men attacked the cafe in Dhaka's diplomatic enclave, popular with the expatriates, around 9 p.m. local time on Friday. Islamic State claimed responsibility for the attack. Earlier, the group posted photos of what it said were dead foreigners killed in the assault on the cafe. The militant group said that 24 people had died. Bangladeshi police denied that, saying that 2 police officers had been killed and at least 20 people were wounded. In other news now, the Conservative leadership race to succeed David Cameron has narrowed down to 5. Theresa May, Michael Gove, Stephen Crabb, Andrea Leadsom and Liam Fox are in contention to become Britain's next Prime Minister. The bookies' favourite, former London Mayor Boris Johnson, shocked many when he withdrew from the race on Thursday.
Race for Britain's Conservative Party leadership has intensified. On Thursday, Brexit supporter and former Mayor of London Boris Johnson surprised many when he said he did not want the job. But his ally in the Brexit campaign, Michael Gove, suddenly announced his candidacy.
This is our chance to think globally again, to lift our eyes to the horizon, to bring our unique British voice and values, powerful, humane, progressive, to the great global forums without being elbowed aside by a supranational body. That having consulted colleagues and in view of the circumstances in Parliament, I have concluded that person cannot be me.
We need, leading the Conservative Party and the country at the moment, someone with experience at the highest reaches of government. We need someone who believes in the British people's verdict that they delivered last week.
Nominations for the Conservative Party leadership have closed now, and apart from Gove, 4 other candidates are competing to replace David Cameron. Home Secretary Theresa May, who backed staying in the EU, is favoured to become the Prime Minister. The other contenders are Stephen Crabb, who also backed to remain, Liam Fox, who backed leaving the EU, and Energy Minister and Leave campaigner Andrea Leadsom. The winner of the contest is set to be announced on 9th of September.
Brexit means Brexit. The campaign was fought, the vote was held, turnout was high, and the public gave their verdict. The country voted to leave the European Union, and it is the duty of the government and parliament to make sure we do just that.
Meanwhile, the opposition Labour Party is also in turmoil, with leader Jeremy Corbyn facing a coup from his own MPs amid criticisms he campaigned poorly to keep Britain in the EU. Corbyn has weathered a mass of defections from his team and overwhelmingly lost a no-confidence vote by Labour MPs on Tuesday, but he is refusing to resign. He is expected to face a formal challenge from his MPs once a rival leadership candidate is chosen.
Whatever now takes place in our party, politics should be conducted in a decent manner. When I stood for the leadership last summer, I called for a kinder, gentler politics. Sadly, I have to report that is still work in progress.
Meanwhile, EU continues to press the UK to invoke Article 50 to start the formal disentanglement proceedings. The IMF also warns that the uncertainty over Britain's looming departure will dampen near-term economic growth for the UK and the rest of Europe and affect output globally. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, much else has been unfolding around the world this week. Let's take a look at some of the other big news from around the world in Globe Watch. Nobel laureate Malala Yousafzai and her family have become millionaires as a result of income from her memoir describing life under Taliban rule in Pakistan's picturesque Swat Valley. The 18-year-old Pakistani teenager who survived a shot to the head by the Taliban had relived the incident and her life in the Swat Valley in I Am Malala, which is co-written with Sunday Times journalist Christina Lamb. A company set up to protect the rights to her life story had £2.2 million in the bank by August 2015 and made a pre-tax profit of £1.1 million. Austria's highest court annulled the result of the presidential election narrowly lost by the candidate of the far-right Freedom Party. The party had challenged the result, saying that the postal votes had been illegally and improperly handled. It also claimed that some under-16s and foreigners had been allowed to vote. The new election is expected to be held in September or October. If elected, Freedom Party leader Norbert Hofer will become the first far-right head of state of an EU country. Taiwan on Friday accidentally fired a supersonic missile towards China as the ruling Communist Party celebrated its 95th birthday on the mainland. The accidental launch of the Chungfeng 3 supersonic anti-ship missile occurred at a naval base in Kaohsiung, south of Taiwan. The missile flew about 75 kilometers before plunging into the waters of Penghu, a Taiwanese-administered island in the Taiwan Strait. Taiwanese Defense Ministry said that the missile hit a Taiwanese fishing boat, killing one person and injuring 3 crew members. At least 30 people were killed while 50 people were wounded in an attack by Taliban bombers at an Afghan police convoy outside the capital Kabul. 2 bombs hit a convoy of buses carrying graduates from a ceremony on the city's western outskirts. The bombing was claimed by the Taliban and follows an attack on a bus just over a week ago that killed 14 people. A fire which broke out at a villa housing expatriate workers in Kuwait killed 9 Asian residents, including children, and injured 25 others, including 4 firefighters. According to officials, 6 of those killed in the blaze were from a single family. The fire happened in a house that had been subdivided into multiple residences in Farwania, a suburb 15 kilometers south of Kuwait City. Some sports news now. In a big shock to football fans, Argentinian superstar Lionel Messi announced his retirement from international football after Argentina's loss to Chile in the Copa America final. Messi missed a penalty in the shootout as defending champions Chile won the final 4-2 on penalties in a repeat of last year's final. The 5-time World Player of the Year will continue to play for his club, Barcelona.
Argentinian football superstar Lionel Messi shocked the world on Monday with the announcement that he was retiring from international football. Messi's surprising decision came after he missed a penalty in Argentina's Copa America final loss to Chile, his 4th major final defeat in 9 years.
This is it. This is my decision. I fought hard. I did everything I could to win. But the truth is, this is it. It's already been 4 finals. I was already thinking about it. I did everything I could. It was not possible to win.
The five-time World Player of the Year was left in tears after Chile beat Argentina 4-2 in the penalty shootout for the second straight year. Messi and Lucas Biglia missed penalties for Argentina.
It ended again, the same way with penalties. We knew it was going to be a very hard-fought match. We didn't have possession, and when he got the ball, we couldn't counter-attack. Unfortunately, we tried but lost again.
Messi made his national debut in 2005 and went on to make 113 appearances for Argentina. He became the country's top goal scorer with 55 goals, with a stunning free kick against USA in the Copa America semi-final. The 29-year-old, however, has been unlucky in ending his country's 23-year wait for a major title, being on the losing side in 4 major finals, including 3 Copa Americas in 2007, 2015 and 2016, and the 2014 World Cup final loss to Germany. His only titles with Argentina has been the Under-20 World Cup and the 2008 Olympics gold. Messi, widely regarded as the greatest player of his generation, will however continue to play for his club Barcelona, with whom he has won every trophy possible, including 8 La Liga titles and 4 Champions League trophies. His decision has shaken the sporting world, with many hoping that it is not irrevocable. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And finally, we'll end the program with thousands of furries gathering in Pittsburgh for the opening of their annual convention. The convention featured artwork, comic book sales, dances, puppetry classes and panel discussions on storytelling and voice acting. Nearly 1,500 people attended the Roaring 20 themed convention in Pittsburgh. I'll leave you with these visuals. See you again next time.